Okay, last Monday Night Mishlei Shiur of the season. But I stay tuned for the survey to see when we want to have Shiur during the summer. I meant to do that today, but I haven't got around to it yet. So probably later on this week. Okay, we're on 12:18, and this is a bit of a difficult one for the first half. Yesh boteh kidmad kuros charev ulashon chachamim marpeh. Right, the second half is really easy. Okay, yesh boteh is a difficult translation. I don't think I would have known what boteh meant, and it looks like even in the BDB dictionary, it's unclear whether it's bet taf hey or bet taf aleph. Okay, if it's bet taf aleph, I get that. That means to like pronounce. Okay, but they say that this. I'm assuming already no one knows what boteh is. That's why I'm just going right to the definition here. They say speak rashly or thoughtlessly, or babble. They translate our pasuk as babble. Because it's the opposite of lashon chachamim. I don't think that's a definite thing. Speak rashly, unadvisedly. Yeah. So there is. I'm gonna go ahead and just. Well, I don't know. Do you want to? Okay. Madkara is a piercing, stabbing, or thrusting. So anyone want to string it together?
There is a blurting out.
Okay, blurting out is good also. Yeah. Blurting out.
That is like a stabbing, this stabbing of a sword.
Okay, like the stabbing of a sword. Now, I don't know. You said blurting out, referring to like the speech itself. It might be a person who blurts out. There is one who blurts out. I think that's actually the more mashma way to learn it. There is one who blurts out. Actually, let's do this. I'm gonna go like this. There's one who speaks. Okay, and then we will make a whole list of these different possible translations for speech. Okay, so blurts out, speaks rashly, thoughtlessly, babbles. What will we say? Yeah, I think those all fit into here. Right, like the stabbing of a sword. Oh, sorry, like the stabbings of a sword. Ulashon chachamim marpeh. That was an easier one.
And the tongue of the speech of chachamim is heels.
Okay, but the tongue. So I'll say it like you did. Speech, literally, tongue of the wise heals. Okay. All right. So not surprisingly, we have a number of different translations and nuanced interpretations here. So we have Mitzus. ציon says botes inyan dibor, so he just says it's dibor, and he quotes the most general pasuk livate to pronounce with one's mouth. So he does not seem to be learning it as any kind of speech, just speaking or like articulating maybe. Kamad karos is inyan tchiva bedavar ma, like insertion of something into an entity. Kamo kol hanimsa yudakar, I guess. Anyone who is found will be stabbed. Okay. Targum translates it as is de imre safsera ragasha. So safsera just means a sword, and then ragasha means movement or noise. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure if that itself is an analogy. Like, I don't know if it means like sharp. I mean, we do say like a sharp sound, you know. So I'm not exactly sure what to make of that. I don't even know how to like write it down as a translation. So we're gonna ignore it. All right, our scroll says there's one who speaks. And then they put harshly in brackets, like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise heals. Okay, so we'll add harshly. Okay, speaks harshly. That's art school. All right, Living Knox says some talk is like the thrust of a sword. So that's like Isaiah originally translated it, but the tongue of the wise is a healing. And Alter says one may speak out like sword stabs, but the tongue of the wise is healing. Okay, I feel like we have enough for a working translation here. Okay, what are the questions and problems here tonight? Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, what is it talking about?
Yeah, okay, right. So what is it talking about? All right, this is a general.
Well, I mean, like, what's the scenario really? Like,
yeah, what is the scenario here? Yeah, I feel like, oh yeah, I'll let people ask me. We'll group that in there. Yeah, Isaiah.
What's the difference between boteh and lashon?
Okay, so what is the difference between actually, you know what? Let's actually make that into a larger question. How are these two opposites? Okay, and then we can say what is the difference between bote and lashon? Okay, and kimad karos harev versus marpeh. Yeah, Rivki?
Yeah, why do we use chachamim for the second half but have no like specific?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. Okay, so why? Yeah, actually, I'm going to put that into this question. Chachamim versus who? Yeah. I mean, that deserves to be its own question also, but since we had the general one, then we'll put it here. Ayala.
So what does it mean that the Chacham's speech heals, and what does it heal?
Okay, so in what sense does the speech of Chachamim heal, and then what is it healing?
Or who, I guess.
Yeah, what and who is it healing? Yeah, Ariel. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Rivki, you have something to add to?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, because I was gonna ask a similar question, and I think it also helps clarify, like, is the speech of the Chachamim specifically healing what the person that's speaking, like, what's
That's a good
doing, or
question. Okay, yeah. So, is it healing the wound created by the stabbing, or is it healing instead of wounding by stabbing? That's a great question. I feel like that's going to be a key question to figuring out the muscle here. Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah, what does it mean? What does it mean, like the stabbings of a sword? Like, how do you do that with words?
Yeah, okay, so what is the muscle of the nimshal, I guess? The nimshal of like the stabbings of a sword. Right, so how do words do that? Yeah, I mean, we do.
I'm assuming it hurts. So like, in what way does it hurt? Also, like,
Right, but yeah, I guess though the question is like, why specifically a sword, right?
right, it's a good question.
Yeah, right. Meaning, and it could just be like a weapon, but I feel like there's probably some reason for the muscle. Yeah, Isaiah.
So David asks, what's the use of the word yesh in this pasuk?
Is this an off-screen David?
Yeah, it's an off-screen David.
Okay. Oh, hi, David. What is the use of the word yesh? Okay, yeah. So, okay, that's actually a good methodology question here, which I'm going to comment on now, even though I'm going to put it down as a question and keep open to it. So, what are we to make? Actually, let's start here. I'm going to add this to the first question. What do we learn from the word yesh? Okay, so hold on a second. I just want to figure out. I do want to read this because I think it's been a while since we read this in Shiur. So Sadia Gaon in his Hakdama to Mishlei has someone told me something funny. Apparently Rabbi Weiss told me I only use ChatGPT. But I guess Benji asked like the Bing GPT, what is Sadia Gaon's method of learning Mishlei? And it basically just like ripped off a bunch of my blog posts and like wrote up a thing about Sadia Gaon's method of Mishlei. So I guess it's good in that like if any, all those people asking for the Sadia Gaon on Mishlei will get like a nice little like authoritative thing. And I guess I got like in on the ground floor of like being the voice of Sadia Gaon and Mishlei on the internet. But I thought that was funny. I asked
That's incredible.
Yeah, ChatGPT just made something up based on Sadia Gaon in general. So I thought that was a little disappointing. Okay, so I'm reading in Sadia Gaon's intro. There's a part where he classifies different styles of psukim, and he has his the yesh psukim. Just gotta find where it is. Yeah, 12 categories of psukim, or 12 categories of ideas. And we are at, yeah, here we go. I think I read this in the morning shiur earlier this morning or earlier this year. let's see, where are we? Harvi Sipur Davar. Yeah, I'm gonna. Oh, Chamishi. Here we go. The fifth category of idea or pasuk in Mishlei, I just lost it again, is davar she'amru b'lashon klali v'inyanim miyuchad. So there are something that is expressed in general terms, but it is referring to a specific case. Amru, as it says, mivarech re'ehu b'kol gadol. I think the rest of the pasuk says, one who blesses his friend in a loud voice in the morning, it will be considered a curse for him. Pirusho yesh hamavarach es re'ehu b'kol gadol b'boker b'hashkama v'hi lo be'enaf nechshavs li'idufin. So it means that there is a case where someone blesses his friend early in the morning, and it ends up being like insult or like a harmful thing. Klomar belibo, in his heart. These psukim are like the psukim that are introduced with the word yesh. Kagon yesh mefazer ve'ein kol. I think we did that earlier this year. Yesh mefazer ve'ein kol. V'chosek miyosher. I don't know. Maybe mixing two psukim. Yesh misasher. Yeah, whatever. So there are other psukim that explicitly say that it's talking about a specific case. Okay, so that's how he's getting it, which is that means that this is not a universal. There's a specific case where this happens and has this consequence or whatever, and it's davka not being a universal. That's how Sadigon takes it. I don't know if that's universal or not, but I'll keep it as a question because I don't know if this is if there's other ways to take it. Okay, Ariel.
Sorry, I forgot my question.
Okay. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, Isaiah?
Is there something specific about a cherub that is best for this analogy as opposed to other sharp objects?
Yeah, so I'll just add that here. Why specifically a sword as opposed to other sharp objects like a knife? Yeah.
Okay, I remember. Okay, so the second half of the pasuk is talking about chachamim.
Yeah.
So who's the first half of the pasuk?
Yeah, Rivki got that question there.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, I really should make that a separate pasuk, but since we already had a separate question. Yeah. Since we already had how are the opposites, I just put them all in one. Right. Yeah. Well, you did a good job thinking of the question though. I mean,
it's not the same.
Listening. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. Okay, what else? I mean, I want to know, I think here we need to ask, this might already be included here, but practically speaking, how do we avoid doing what is in the first half and do what is in the second, right? Like let's say, for example, we talk about the quality of speech that is bote, that is like a sword stab, and then we talk about the quality of the lashon chachamim that is a healing. That's not necessarily going to tell us how to actually speak that way. So I think we should ask this, the practical question, even if, it might be that we need to figure it out on our own, but I think it's still, we need to do it, even if the pasuk's not teaching it. Ariel?
All right. So are these the only two methods of speaking, or are there others?
Right. So I'll ask that question. Okay.
It's not the best question, but
is this pasuk? I don't know whether it makes sense to say it in the way I'm going to say it. Is this pasuk there's got to be some term in logics that has this. I'm going to say binary and mutually exclusive, right? In other words, is it just these are the only two ways to speak, and there's no third way, and there's no shades of difference in between, or is it a spectrum? Are there are these two of many?
Yeah, and also what's the consequence of the first one?
Right. Okay. So what is the consequence of? Yeah, actually, I'm going to add that to. I think that is really part of the question about what the nimshal is, which is no, it could be its own question because maybe the stabbing is describing the type of speech, but not the consequence. What is the consequence of the first half? Yeah, Isaiah.
So is this lashon that the chachamim have, or is it that chachamim are chachamim and the way they speak comes out this way because of their personalities, or is it that it's telling you a quality of a certain type of speech? It's the good speech is called
right.
Lashon chachamim.
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so is the second half saying that that Chachamim speak this way due to a certain Chacham quality they have? Or is this saying that if you speak this way, then your speech is the type of speech that Chachamim have? And in fact, that might be a good answer to Rivki's question, because maybe the pasuk is not talking about unknown category of person compared to Chacham. Maybe it's just talking about ordinary people and saying this first speech is like sword stabbings and this speech is like Chachamim, you know? So it's like it opens a path for answering this question. Ariel?
Yeah. A couple of questions. One is, why is this unique to a Chacham?
Yeah.
Or what about this trait is unique to a Chacham, or
Okay,
or
yeah.
the other way? But
Yeah. So I'm just thinking where I should put this. Either way, what about this type of speech reflects or like embodies Chachma?
and who's the audience of this pasuk?
Yes. Who is the audience of this pasuk?
And I guess like the reason why I'm asking that question is because like the first half of the pasuk, like that individual, like is he able to, you know, is he really the audience because he could help himself versus like, I don't know, like one, is he, meaning versus like other pasukim where, you know, it's not talking to them because like they just can't change? Or
sorry, say that one more time. I just want to make sure I got your question.
yeah, I'm asking who the audience is specific to like the first half of the question, pasuk, because like I know in some other pasukim, you know, like there are archetypes who just, you know, you can't talk to them because, you know, so I'm wondering if this is the same.
Is the pasuk speaking to the person in the first half, or is it speaking to us, telling us to learn from that person?
Right.
Okay, good. Ayala?
So I think this question may be included in some other ones.
Yeah.
But specifically, what types of speeches is talking about?
Yeah. So I do feel like the second half or the first half is included in that one, and the other question is in here, but I could make it more explicit here. How do words do that? What kind of speech does that? Why specifically a sword? And then we have, how's the lashon of the Chachamim kiel? Yeah, that's a major.
Also methodologically and thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, is there any like, I guess, specific type of, or way that we can know what type of speech this is, or do we just have to like think about the consequences and think about like what speech would produce these consequences?
Yeah, I that's a great question. I think we have to just work with what's given here, you know, like what does it mean to stab something with a sword? And like what can we, like, we have to like reverse engineer what kind of speech that's talking about, keeping in mind healing speech. And like, you know, it's one of those fun games where we have to like use the halves of the pasuk like play off of each other for this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Isaiah.
Well, off screen, David. But
Off screen, David.
is when we talk about the lashon of the Chachamim, is that specifically like in contradistinction to the blurting out or whatever that is, or that's just a general lashon Chachamim, and that's what we're looking to discuss here? That's
a good question also, right? So I'm going to put this, okay. Yeah, so I'm going to just repeat in question 7, is this the second half of the pasuk saying that Chachamim speak this way due to a certain Chacham quality they have, or is this saying that if you speak this way, your speech is the type of speech that Chachamim have, or is this just being called Lashon Chachamim relative to the Stabby speech, right? Right, it might not even be objectively Chachamim, but like, you know, like for example, we say in English, you know, like with surgical precision. Now, that doesn't mean like you are on par with a surgeon, but we're just saying like as opposed to someone who's not coordinated, you know, then you're doing it in a relatively precise way, like expert speech or something. Yeah, Ariel?
Yeah. Did we ask how that's bad? Meaning how speaking like the stabbing of the sword is
I
bad?
think you asked what the consequences are for that. Where's the consequence of the first half?
Well,
so I'll add-
well, I don't think it's the same question because the consequences are like the aftermath of it, but I'm more asking like the activity itself, like how is it bad?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. Typically, Mishlei is going to be talking about stuff as good and bad based on the consequences and benefits. And here especially, it sounds like, we would say, for example, the lashon of the Chachamim is probably good and intrinsically, but the pasuk is highlighting that it heals. So I feel like here the bote speech, the stabby speech, might be bad in general, but like it's
Right.
emphasizing that it's wounding.
Can I give like an example? Like the way
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it is like I'm throwing a rock at someone.
Yeah.
Like throwing the rock at someone is like inherently bad. And the consequence is that like the guy's gonna get bruised and you're gonna have to.
Isn't it only bad because throwing a rock is, creates a situation where a person will get bruised?
Meaning the activity of throwing the rock is not
Like
necessarily
if you're playing catch and you throw a rock, for someone to catch it, then that's not bad because that's like by design,
So the meaning is only because you're hurting someone and.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that your possibility is impossible. I'm just saying like the gist seems to be that just like the lashon chachamim is good because it heals, the first half is bad because it stabs, and stabbing it.
Yeah. I mean, I got the lashon. I'm just trying to understand like conceptually, like if there's a difference between the two.
Yeah, could be. If you can develop an idea like that, I'm open to it.
Right.
I'm gonna keep it the way like it is in the questions. Yeah, Rivki.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this was like included in another question or if it's just like completely obvious in the pasuk.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering for the first half, is this person doing whatever they're doing on purpose? Like, is it some midah that they just have that, they haven't worked on and it's like
Okay.
a thing, or is it something that's more of like a natural reaction?
Okay, I'm gonna ask that in this first question as well as part of the scenario here is the person in the first half doing this on purpose, or is this just a like an unthinking habit? And then does it matter, right? Like if you habitually like walk around stabbing, then like doesn't really matter that you didn't do it on purpose. I mean, you should stop doing the stabbing. Okay, I think Isaiah.
So I think my question was pretty much the same as Rifi's question, but like I think there's sort of three possibilities. There's like doing it as a habit, but it is on purpose when you do it. And then there's like it's an actual mistake, like you said something you didn't mean to say. So I think that's another possibility.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna split that into another dichotomy here. Likewise, is this talking about a like one-time incident, or a pattern of behavior? And then when you match those two together, you get what Isaiah said. Yeah. Is there another question? Yeah.
Yeah. Also within Rifki's question, is that the intentional thing that this person made or potentially purposeful thing? Is the purposeful the stabbing aspect or just the blurting out aspect?
I mean, isn't it
like very happily blurts out and they intentionally blurt out, but they don't mean to do harm, or they are intentionally doing the harm that comes from the blurting out?
okay? So, and if the former is the intentionality in the blurting out or in the stabbing? Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. I think we have it here. And while I copy and paste, I'm going to go ahead and make the same announcement I made this morning in Mishlei Shiur. For those who didn't hear or those who didn't see it on any of the chats, my brother, YouTuber Shni, made the one of the greatest methodology videos that I've seen. Well, not that I watch methodology videos, methodology presentations of our entire yeshiva's method of analysis. And he's doing it as applied to fiction, but he's really going through a walkthrough of the Brisker Derech, the way our yeshiva does it, in terms of Brisker Derech not being a method of Talmudic analysis, but a method of analyzing everything. And it is a long video, and it is not like his other videos because it is not very frilly. And he even says in the beginning that this is going to be a dry video. It was not a dry video, but everyone who cares about thinking and wants to get better at it will benefit from watching it, hands down, because it's gold. It's like methodology gold. And I don't know how he, if you told me to make a complete presentation on how to think, I could do like how to analyze Mishlei. I could do like how to give a shiur. I don't think I could do like how to think analytically as a comprehensive video. Like it's a work of it's a masterpiece. So I encourage everyone to check that out. If I remember, I'll try to include the link in the show notes, but you can just go on his channel.
And
Okay.
if you're on YouTube, just click over there.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna go back and insert the link. Okay. Okay. So let's take our minute of thinking. There's something, by the way, just very like, I don't know, refreshing about this. Is just a straight mushal. Like, I feel like we haven't had one of these in a long time. It's just like, okay, you know, this is like this and this is like this.
The problem with it is like, you know, because it's a straight mushal, like there's so many possibilities.
I know.
Or like there's like
I
only
know.
one, and like
Yep.
it's complicated.
Yep. Okay. If you need some guidance, by the way, I think the 3 questions to focus on are, well, actually the 4 questions. I mean, this is gonna sound simple, but like, you need to define the type of speech that is bad and the type of speech that's good. And the only clues you have are the bad speech is like stabbing and the good speech is healing. So like, just keep your eye on those 4 things, you know?
I have another question, and maybe
Yeah.
minor.
Sure.
Or I don't even know if it's a question at all, I guess, but is there a reason why like stabbings is plural?
Good question. Yeah, I'm gonna add that to the why stabbings plural. Yeah, I also had a question about the quantities here. Also minor question. It is interesting how this is one speaker or instance of speech, just boteh, but then, and it's also one lashon, but it's the lashon of chachamim, you know, of plural. I don't know if it matters.
Sorry, did we also ask what makes the healing wise? Meaning like maybe what about the speech makes it wise versus, you know, is it because of the healing it's wise, or is it because?
Yeah, I think
Did we
that's
ask that?
covered. I think we could have asked it as one question, but I asked it as
Right.
2. In what
Okay.
sense does it heal? And then in what sense is it wise?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I have like an idea, but I feel like it's just so obvious. And I know you say like, oh, like you could focus on the thing that is obvious until you get like a fetish or like see
Yeah.
there are, but I'm like really just struggling with like, it just is so basic.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd say start with that. In fact, in Johnny's methodology video, yeah, no, I mean, that is one of the things is like, you have to start with what you know for sure, you know. I also have a very basic, I don't even have an interpretation of the pasuk. I just have a basic move that I want to start with, but yeah. All right, Isaiah, let's hear what you have to say.
Okay, so I want to interpret this as the same person talking in both halves.
Okay.
So I guess I think the first half is saying that like there's a situation where unintentionally you can say something, you know, blurt something out, and it comes out as like piercing blows to another person.
Yeah.
And you didn't mean it to sound like that. You know, we've all
Right.
had that kind of situation.
Yeah.
But you know, you can use your mind and apply it to your speech and sort of like make the other person realize that that wasn't what you meant to say, or like, you know, you didn't mean to hurt them in that way, or like there's all kind of ways out of the damage that you did to the person,
Yeah.
or at least to help. So I think that's why it's called Lashon Chachamim, is because it you know, you have to use your Chachma in order to formulate it now that you've got yourself into the
Okay,
bad
that's a really good approach. I want to take that and then let's see if we can refine that. Okay, so this pasuk is talking about one individual in a case where he intentionally says something thoughtless which causes which hurts someone else. The second half teaches us that you can use your Mishleic wisdom to figure out ways to heal the wound. Okay, that's a really good start. So now the question is, as Arya would say, that's obvious, right? So the question is, what is the Hava Amina? Meaning, why would a person either intellectually or emotionally think that he couldn't do this, or why would a person like do something else instead? Ariel?
Yeah, I was actually thinking similar to Isaiah's idea.
Yeah.
And maybe it's possible that you know, when someone is just interacting with individuals, like they're not really thinking within the framework of like, how can I help this person, or
right.
you know, what, meaning like it starts with the mentality, it starts with the mindset of like, okay, what's my goal, and like what's you know, there has to be like a clear, specific plan within your mind, and then based off of what's in your mind, that's how you're going to be able to express your thoughts.
Okay, I now I don't know what you're saying.
No, I just mean that like when you're interacting with someone, like you shouldn't just like, you know, just interact with them without a clear objective, because if you don't have a clear objective, then you're just going to start saying anything, and that's going to be unintentional. You want to be more purposeful.
So it sounds like you're talking about, I'm not saying this is bad, I sense a difference between what you're saying and Isaiah is saying. It sounds like you're talking about a case where the pasuk is teaching you about how to avoid this kind of speaking, but Isaiah is saying that this is not telling you how to avoid the kind of speaking. It's telling you how to do what to do when you have engaged in this kind of speaking. Like, you know, if you everyone can make this mistake, you know, and so you know, there are other pasuk about like thinking before you speak. This is about where like you already spoke and heard was done, and it's telling you what do you do now.
So okay, fine. So
Isaiah, you want to add something?
David had something. 1 second.
Okay, yeah.
Hi. Okay, so I was thinking, and I actually don't know if this helps or hurts the point into your question of, well, then like, what is the second half telling us, and what are you achieving here?
Yeah.
I think specifically when someone blurts something out, whoever got the hurt from that, they definitely get a sense of this is what you were really thinking, and evidenced by that you blurred this out and you didn't think before you spoke. That's like how you really are feeling internally. So in that regard, if it's something hurtful, then there's kind of like in some ways, like there's no taking that back. Like you just revealed what you were thinking. And so I then don't know if it's true or not for the second half of this pasuk to be saying, well, there actually still is a way to help work your way out of it not being interpreted that way.
Okay, so I'm going to add that as an addition to Isaiah's idea, because I think that it doesn't, I don't think you need to say it, attach it specifically to Isaiah's idea, but I think it does help it, which is that the victim will often think that since you said it, this must be your real intention, and that is what causes the hurt. So the second half of the pasuk is teaching you that there is a path to like correcting that. And I think there is I think it points directly to the path to healing that. What would you say?
I mean, I do think that is, if I think then it's just kind of depending on the recipient and how the conversation then goes from there. And if you can really show through chachma that you did not mean this hurtfully, then you could go somewhere with that. But that's what I was saying. I
Okay,
could see
well,
through
okay,
the
so
house as well.
let's combine this with what Ariel said. Ariel was talking about before you start speaking, but now the question is you need a plan, and the plan here is refuah, right? So if the nature of the hurt had to do with intentionality, right? Like an assumption of intentionality, like that you intentionally hurt me by saying this. So then what would you think a necessary component has to be?
Teshuva, like you have to show that you changed, or like that your intention changed.
Right.
Like
So A, showing that that this wasn't or isn't your intention. Okay. And I think there's going to be at least one more component here. Let's just think through the situation here, right? Because in other words, I don't think from experience, just from my own experience, it's not enough to demonstrate that you didn't mean that. I think there's still something lacking.
well,
Yeah.
I think like sometimes you need to also show that the opposite, like let's say you said something bad about this person by
Right.
accident, like you need to show them that you actually believe the opposite, maybe that like there's actually
Yeah.
something good about them,
Okay.
or like
So I didn't hear the last part. You got muted.
or that you just don't believe the bad thing at least.
Right. Yeah. The reason why I'm hesitating about the first part of showing the opposite is, I mean, in certain cases that's true. In other cases, it's not like I feel like the opposite is going too far, and like that's not always warranted. Like let's say for example, yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know, something about that is doesn't ring to be true in all cases. I do think that okay, tell me if this makes any sense. I don't know if I'm saying it. I do feel like in addition to showing that you didn't mean what the person said, or you don't think that, there does need to be a certain like showing that you care about the person's feelings. I feel like even if you could, let's say you proved, like here's a case, right? Like let's say like let's say like you hear me say something that indicates that I think that you're dumb, okay? And you get all upset, and then I say, no, look, and then let's say I like bring to you like example after example of like letters that I wrote about you, about where I say how smart you are, right? I feel like that addresses like intellectually, like it's going to make you feel like, okay, he didn't really mean it. But I feel like that also, there's a certain feeling of like, I'm just trying to like get out of the accusation. I feel like there has to be some addressing of the actual like relationship. And the way that you do that is to show, I'm sorry that I hurt you, irrespective of like whether I meant it or not, or, like, or whether like I intended what you thought. So I think there has to be like a demonstration of caring about the other person's feelings and about the relationship itself. Okay, now again, I'm not saying, and just to be clear here, I'm not saying that I'm getting this from the pasuk. I'm just taking what David said and just extrapolating. This is like what I was asking about when I said, practically speaking, like how do we do this? I don't know if the pasuk is teaching us how to do this, but we need to know in order to gain the benefit from the pasuk. But I still want to go back. I don't think that what David said answers Isaiah's question. Why do we need to hear this? Like, why do we need to be told that you can heal stuff? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of thought it did answer that question.
Okay.
Because it sounded like he was saying you might think that since it's like a slip, like it showed your real intention, like it's not. It's like you can't take back like the real thing, the real hurt that you already said, because it was like true to the person you said it to. They're gonna take it as a true thing, and you can't take it back.
I understand from the perspective of the person who got hurt that they'll feel like that. But if you know that you didn't mean it, then like, wouldn't you just know that like you could fix it? I'm still, Yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, I think at least what's coming to mind is something we've said for other psukim. So I don't know if it like answers.
Okay, whatever. Yeah.
But I think that often it's just like psychologically in the heat of the moment, it's very challenging to like take back what you said or explain why what you said isn't exactly like how that person took it. And it also could just be that it was actually a miscommunication. Like I feel
Right.
like times like you said something that you meant in one way and the
Right.
person that's hearing it doesn't
Right.
actually understand how you meant it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that definitely is it might be an answer. You're right. That is a more general answer. And that's a perfectly fine like back pocket answer that I'm willing to like say if we need to. I'm just trying to look for something in the pasuk itself, and we might not find that. Ayala, you want to say something to answer this question? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that maybe like there's two ways kind of looking at speech. And I don't know if should I give a different interpretation somewhat to answer this question, or should I just
I don't know what to say because
okay, fine. I guess I'll just say no.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really a full interpretation. I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, I guess, that the person is originally like why they're making the mistake that Isaiah is describing is because they're like they weren't like looking at speech as like a thoughtful, like articulated thing, but then they mess up with that, and then like the way to fix that kind of is they have to like change their mentality towards speech, and like look, they have like it's easy to think that like once you're using speech in that like kind of blurty way, to like forget that speech can be used in like an articulated manifestation of chachma, and if they changed that, then they could fix their mistake.
Yeah, that's definitely that is the idea that is suggested by Isaiah. So I'm going to take that as a first step. Okay, so this person, so okay, that what do you call it? There's a word I'm looking for that sounds like emerge. Whatever. That's like that follows directly from the pasuk. Okay, so I that's why I like that. So evidently, the audience of this pasuk doesn't view speech as a phenomenon subject to thinking and wisdom. Okay, right? Which is why they're not going to see the possibility of healing, of using speech, of like healing with speech through wisdom. Okay, so I still feel like I don't fully understand why not. Like, why don't they see it that way? And yeah. I don't know if we can answer these questions, by the way, but I'm skimming to see if there's any party signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Isaiah. Yeah, go ahead.
Interesting. I did not think that about the audience of this pasuk.
Okay.
Because I sort of was thinking it's like it could even be someone who is a chacham.
Yeah.
The bote is like a mistake. It's like they really completely unintentional that they hurt this person.
Right.
And now the pasuk is teaching you there's a way to fix that. And then I hear the question of like how's it finished?
Yeah. That's that I think that's what's bothering me. Yeah, Rifki.
Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of why not. I think that it could just be because thank God, like we have the ability to speak, for the most part. And I think that sometimes when things are regular and we aren't really thinking about what we're doing, it's just like you take it for granted. Like you're not really thinking. Like I remember one time you brought up that Ruth Bader Ginsburg used to like pause every single time she spoke.
Right.
And I think that most people are like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let me try out an approach here, and I don't know where this is going to lead, but I think that this might come down to the Torah's premise that like people don't feel like speech is an action. So what I'm wondering about is if this is an unintentional mistake, like if you said something intentionally and hurt somebody, then I think you're viewing it more as like you crafted the statement that like backfired, but like if you just said something and the person got hurt, then I think it's easy to feel like that's just their problem, like they just got hurt. like they like I've even seen people like on internet forums and stuff like, well, that person chose to get offended, and like I think there's some disconnect between the words that they're saying and like how the person is reacting. And I think part of it is reinforced by the fact that it's not intentional, like, yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, maybe I don't know if this is the same approach or a different approach. Okay, let's say like I was like, oh, actually, no, I know of a case like this. And some of you might know this person also. I don't know, that someone was on a cruise. Someone's grandfather was on a cruise. I'll have to ask about the story. I'm pretty sure this is the accurate telling of the story. And a waiter was holding a knife, and I don't know if like the boat rocked or something like that. He accidentally stabbed this guy's my friend's grandfather, and just like it was a total accident, of course. And then he kind of panicked and just like left, and then like he started bleeding, and like they had to like get the emergency stuff or whatever. So let's say you accidentally stab somebody. There's no thought that I can unstab him. Like I can't, the thing that I did that hurt him, I can't then use that thing to like make things better. And I think what the pasuk is telling you, so maybe in other words, maybe the first half of the pasuk is speaking from the perspective of the person who makes the mistake, that there is a type of speech that is hurtful that you are going to view as stabbing somebody. Okay. Like a blunt object that there's just, okay, well, this guy got stabbed, I can't unstab him. And then I know I'm not answering Isaiah's question, but I think this way of expressing the mashal like fits into Isaiah's approach. And this is saying, no, that's not what happened. What happened is you said words and there was certain intention behind those words. And this person attached other meaning to these words. And as a result of that, then they were hurt. But in the same way that those words caused hurt, those words can cause healing as well if you follow like the advice of Mishlei and stuff. So I think that's like what maybe Isaiah was getting at, that like the person is not viewing this as something, he's just not seeing this as something that you can use chachma for. And the pasuk is guiding him to think that it is. I realize I'm still not answering the question, but I feel like this does have a clear approach. What do you think?
Yeah, meaning you're just saying that we don't use words as a tool for healing because we don't associate it as like a tangible object. Object.
No, I'm saying we do relate to it almost like a tangible object, like a blunt object that just hurt somebody. We don't.
No, I mean for the healing aspect of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hold on a second. I'm just going to type out what I said first, even though it doesn't answer the question. So, the pasuk characterizes unintentional, hurtful speech as a sword stabbing because the person who does it thinks that there's no way to right the wrong. Okay, like a sword stabbing. Okay, but the pasuk is reframing his view of how speech worked, like to show him that in the same way that speech was used to hurt, it can be crafted to heal. I still think there's more to be said here, but I feel like this is like in the zone of the idea. Okay, so let's put this on the side burner. Okay, and maybe as we hear more people's ideas, then we'll be able. Oh, sorry, Moshe, were you asking? Did you have your hand up to ask something about this?
Well, yeah, I was gonna.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, I thought you were saying a separate idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like whatever. I mean, I hear what you were saying, but maybe like whatever like the healing is in this like case is something like more nuanced than like kind of like, so it would lead you to think like where like the results of like the healing when it wouldn't intrinsically have anything to do with like the action. Like
Right.
It's something specific.
Yeah. In other words, like I've been using the case of someone, you say something that makes someone think that whatever, that you have some sort of bad view of them and you correct it. But are you suggesting something like okay, like let's say like a teacher says something that makes a kid feel like the teacher thinks that they're dumb. So I was saying something like, okay, so you have to correct that almost like in the moment, but maybe it's describing something like the way you speak to them in general outside of those circumstances will cause a healing over time. You know, you're not addressing the specific thing, but like you're facilitating healing in some like larger, more indirect way. Or am I totally missing the point?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, yeah, I could be missing the point here.
I mean, it's okay. So I don't have it very well thought out.
Okay, we can always come back to it. Let's go on to a different interpretation now. Rifki, go ahead.
Okay, so I was thinking that this is two different people,
Yeah.
and that the pasuk is basically saying like, which type of person do you want to be? And I think that the first person, I was really concentrating on like the stabbings of the sword and the healing, and specifically what each of those do in reality. So I feel like, I don't know, I'm struggling with like two venues to take. So for stabbing of a sword, I was thinking that it's intentional. Like, I feel like generally, most stories I would assume aren't like the story that you said that like randomly, like someone is accidentally getting stabbed.
Yeah.
So I that this was intentional. And
Yeah,
even,
that's a fair move.
yeah. And even if it's like that the person regrets it, it was still intentional in that moment.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's what the sword was.
Yeah.
And with the healing, that healing does exactly the opposite of what stabbing does. Is healing is that you're, I guess, repairing the damage that had been done in a way that will, I guess, basically like almost like reverse the effects. So obviously, like you can't completely ever reverse something, but like you can change it in a way that is for the better. So I was thinking that was like my main idea, basically, and that each of these things is a speech. And I was thinking of an example, like, let's say if, I don't know, like someone made like a really nice event and invited a bunch of people, and then this is the person in the pasuk, not the person that made the party. Like someone went to the party and they said, oh, well, like, the cocktail was like disgusting or something like that. Obviously, the person that made it is going to be offended. So that would be like the stabbing of the sword. But like a different person in that same situation, I don't know how it would work with the healing, but the only thing I can think of is if they repair the situation that the stabbing did. But yeah.
Right. Okay. So this is the idea that you were saying like felt too basic. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna write it down. I think it's a good alternative to Isaiah's in terms of the crossroads here, right? So this is talking about two different people who speak in these two ways. And the first half is talking about someone who intentionally causes hurt with their words. Okay, just like most people who use swords do so with the intent to harm. And the second half is talking about someone who does the reverse with their words. Okay, so then that's just now this remains for an idea to be developed from there. Okay, good. I think this is a good thing to say, like to just articulate what's on your mind, and then now we have this to develop. Okay, Ariel.
Okay. So for some reason, like the second half of the pasuk kind of reminds me of like Aaron, where he
right.
Where
he's healing other people.
He's healing other people by fixing their relationships.
Yeah. So let me just state what that is in case there's someone who doesn't know the reference. So it's usually, I think, brought down in Aaron was Oev Shalom Verodev Shalom. Aaron chase peace, love peace, and chase peace. And then the example they give is, let's say, I'm just going to make an example. Let's say like Rivki and Ayala are like fighting, so Aaron would go up in private and tell Rivki like, oh, Ayala really feels bad about what happened, and like wants to make things up, wants to make things better. And then he would go to Ayala and say the same thing, and then like bring them together, and they would reconcile. So he would like say the things that were necessary in order to like facilitate the healing between the two people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you see from him that he's like actively like his chacham was he's actively, doing that. Like he's actively using his speech and to do that. Now,
Right.
my only challenge with the first half of the pasuk is I'm still unsure if that individual is doing it intentionally, or like someone stabbing someone intentionally, or it could just mean like the stabbings of the sword is just painful versus like
Right.
like
See,
someone's actually doing it.
yeah, I think this is why I like Isaiah's approach in terms of that question, because Isaiah's approach, according to Isaiah's approach, it doesn't matter ultimately whether it was intentional or not. Like Isaiah used the case of unintentional, but the second half, according to Isaiah, could apply even to intentionality. And I think that just it simplifies the case. Like we're just talking about however you ended up hurting someone with your speech. Like
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, either way, whatever it is, I was gonna say that, like, the same scenario, like if an individual is speaking with two people who he knows are in a conflict, he's not thinking about the goal of helping them, and he may say things that can hurt it even more, and like it's
Right.
kind of like furthering the wound.
Right.
But I don't know, the first half I'm not so clear on, honestly, but I just wanted to see if there was like a possible idea that would emerge from.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good way to think about it, but I also am not seeing a direct path to an idea right now. Yeah, Ayala.
Also not such a full baked idea.
Yeah.
But I was thinking maybe like the stabbings of the sword, like the fact that it's plural is like,
Yeah.
it's like you're trying to hit a target, but I guess maybe when you stab, I feel like you're like stabbing around until you get it, kind of. Whereas like the speech, I'm taking it as a second way of like the speech is like wise speech, not that it's specifically a chacham speaking. And that's like intention. And maybe these are like two different ways of like how people use speech. Of the first one is like there's like a concept and the person is kind of like throwing words out to try to get something to stick, to get the idea. Whereas like the second one is like carefully articulating the words in order to like nail it on the head the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I hear what you're saying. I'm a little, I feel like it's a little speculative to say that. And those like this. In the same way that you acknowledge that the question is a minor question with the stabbings, like the main thing clearly is like it's a like a fatal or a harmful blow, right? Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I don't know. It seems I don't dispute your idea, but I feel like I need more compelling basis to like go with that as like a part of the main idea.
Okay, I mean the part about like it doesn't have to be like the stabbings. I guess even the word botat is like blurts out thoughtlessly, rashly.
Right. So in the way you're learning the scenario, what is the person trying to do, and what is he actually doing?
Trying to convey, maybe, I don't know. This part is like kind of the half-bakedness of it, I guess. But like trying to convey an idea, and the first guy's doing that by like blurting things out, trying to get something to stick.
Yeah.
Whereas the second guy is like, maybe this is just too obvious. I don't know.
Oh no, so
It's
I
like,
think you're taking a radically new approach though, right? Now you're saying that this is not about harming people with your speech at all.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
I don't really know the implications.
Oh no, so that's okay. So that's actually that's an interesting thing. So that is a different approach. Yeah. The only thing I feel like is I feel like there's that, and this again, this is maybe just my ignorance of like weaponry in Tanakh times. I feel like maybe you should use a different thing, like shooting arrows, or so, like I don't know, like if you're trying to like hit a target and like it being prone to missing, I feel like sword stabbings are not really like the thing to use, But I do like the approach that maybe this is not about hurting people, even though it does say healing, but yeah, not sure.
Well,
Isaiah?
maybe I'm just
Yeah.
thinking now why it uses the words of like hurting versus healing
Yeah.
is because when you are just like blurting out speech and trying to get your point to stick, you're gonna end up saying a lot of hurting things along the way. Whereas if you don't, then it's gonna like it's not gonna harm anyone, and in fact, it's gonna like accomplish the point like above and beyond.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm just I see. I think the other thing also is like I'm already not sure if blurting. I'm still like not sure. See the way. Oh, this is another thing with Isaiah. Even though Isaiah said it's talking about where he says something thoughtless, like in other words, like this, because I really don't know what the deal is with bote here. I am the more universal or the more generic of the character of bote is, the better for me, you know. And so anything like if we're doing a speculative thing about bote and a speculative thing about the stabbings, I can't fully get on board with it, even though it sounds nice. I don't know. I can't explain why I'm resisting it. Yeah, Isaiah.
So David actually had another question to add on.
Yeah.
Which was so doesn't the sword stabbing sort of imply like a final thing, like death? So then how could you heal that? Yeah,
so that's why I do think that this is not talking about lethal. I accidentally said lethal earlier. I think this is talking about like wounding, you know. And I also don't think, by the way, see, this is where I need Johnny to give his sword knowledge about. I don't know how big swords were back then. I know they weren't very sharp, but I think they cut you a lot. But I don't know, like, I mean, look, I'm sorry. There's two ways to take it. Either this is talking about two separate. I guess like in this case, a guy's being killed by the sword, and in this case, a person's being healed by the sword, in which case you can say that the sword is lethal, or it's talking about wounding and then someone else heals him, you know? Okay, let's do this. I went and I looked at my Mishlei folder from like the late 2000s, and I found out that I did have an idea, but I didn't read it before Shiur because I didn't want to influence my thinking. So let's read what I said and see if it holds up, and then let's look at the Mefarshim. Okay, so this time I copied and pasted it ahead of time. Okay, there is one who speaks like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise heals. The term used for speech in this pasuk is bote, which connotes official pronouncements, as in, oh, okay, I got this from Matsu's David, I think. Hold on, Matsu's David said, oh yeah, from Matsu's ציון, right? He quoted that pasuk in Vayikra, which is, I just want to show you inside, Vayikra 5:4. Oops. I think this is about, let's see, 5. Yeah, about a neder. Yeah. Onefesh ki si shava. Oh, it's an shavua. Onefesh ki si shava levate bisfasaim lahara o lehetiv lechol asher yivate ha'adam bishvua v'nela mimenu v'hu yadav Hashem la'achas meila. So it's talking about a person who makes an oath to pronounce with his lips for bad or for good, to do harm or to do good. Whatever a man pronounces through an oath. So it's talking. The implication here is like to make an official pronouncement. I think that's where I got it from. I don't know what I'm going to say. Okay. In certain cases, so that's why I'm the yesh, when a pronouncement is made which has a detrimental impact on its listeners, the announcer is utterly insensitive to the harsh and painful affect, or is that a typo? Effect of his words. I think effect of his words. This occurs either because he lacks sympathy or because he seeks to avoid sympathizing with the listener. I don't know what I mean there. Consequently, those who hear the pronouncement will be more resistant to accepting it and will likely harbor animosity towards its source. This will lead to interpersonal and systemic friction. The Chachamim, on the other hand, will take into account the emotional affect of their words. That's an affect. Will take the emotional affect of their words into consideration by putting themselves in the shoes of the listeners. They will make an effort to formulate their pronouncements in a manner that generates minimal discord and which aims to undo or prevent the emotional damage that has or will be done. Okay, so I'm really leaning heavily into what I exactly said now. I don't have an intuition in, but I am using a basis of the Mitzvah ציון here. So let's come up with an example that we can work with here of like, okay, here's a good example. There are medical professionals with a horrible bedside manner, right? That will just just bluntly say like, you know, like what the odds are of like healing or recovery and just like not having any sympathy or whatever. And they're just making these pronouncements and like lacking the empathy, and it's the coldness of the announcements or the insensitivity of the announcements that causes the pain. And the Lashon Chachamim is that when they are forced to make an announcement, even if it is something that's like mandated and that's going to be like detrimental, they'll couch it in a way that empathizes with the listeners and puts themselves in their shoes in order to like to heal the damage that was done. Sorry, if they're responding to the pronouncement, then they'll do it that way. Or if they like let's say, for example, like I'll give you another example. Let's say you are someone in a position of authority whose job is to hand out like awards. Okay. And let's say like someone really needed this award or a scholarship and they didn't get it. So you announce it. And I think there is this feeling that since it's an official pronouncement, you can kind of give relinquish responsibility on it. Like, no, I'm just reading the announcement. Like, that's it. You know, like, this is not me. I'm just the don't shoot the messenger kind of thing, you know. But the Chacham will go and make sure and realize, like, kind of like getting back to Isaiah's point, is that no, I have the gift of speech. I can use speech to, like, you know, to talk about Aristotelian rhetoric categories. I have access to, you know, ethos, pathos, and logos. Like, just because I delivered the logos, like the ideas, the content, doesn't mean that I can't also craft the speech to have the best emotional impact and use my position and my relationship with the speaker to like soften the blow and like put them on the path to like being in a better place emotionally, you know? So like, I think that that was the approach I was taking here. Yeah. Comments and questions. Yeah. Ariel? Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's from what I'm gathering, it seems like you're saying that, you know, that like there are two different types of speakers out there. One is like, you know, the Chacham, he's able to convey the information while recognizing people's emotions and using his speech by, you know, appealing to his emotions as well.
Yeah.
Versus the first guy is, all right, he can speak and he can convey information, but like he's not taking their emotions into consideration.
Correct. Yeah. And I think specifically, I think another thing that, again, I have no idea how, I have no recollection of learning this, but just reading it now is like someone else's פירוש. I think this fits in with the Yesh theory that I said from Sadigon. This is not talking about how to talk in general. Like, there are the pasukim about taking people's emotions into account. This is talking about a specific type of speech where you're making a formal announcement. And because of the nature of that announcement, you don't view it as though you're talking. You view it as though I'm just delivering this info, you know? And so you relinquish responsibility over how the message is going to be received. And that's why this is saying, no, a Chacham wouldn't do that. A Chacham would say, even if the Chacham is charged with like delivering this information, the Chacham would find ways to like use the gift of speech to make sure that the person is going to be receiving it in the most productive way possible.
Yeah, and like, I guess like with the piercing of the sword, like it's painful to just hear the information.
Yeah.
With that. Yeah. I mean, I like, you know, I have examples also, like just like within, you know, like a few years ago, like I sold a house and there were, you know, an elderly couple.
Yeah.
And they started crying, you know, because like, they've been living there for 30 years.
Right. Yeah.
And I could have told them, look, you just got to move on. but I recognized that it was a very emotional moment for them, and I sympathize with them, and like that's ultimately kind of like what let me sell their house, you know, versus someone else who just wouldn't.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good example. Another place where you see this play out really poorly or really well is when managers or like, you know, employers have to fire someone, you know, people who fire people in a really insensitive way. Like, you hear these horror stories about people who get laid off, like they get it as like an email, you know, or like they get it as like, you know, like a mass like announcement where just everyone's let go, just as like, you know, like you guys think you're being taken in for like a party, but no, you know, and like it's just okay. I get it. You need to make the announcement. I think that's another rationalization people have. They distance themselves from the content of the announcement because it's not me. It's just coming down from on high. But like they also like there is a feeling of like, well, this needs to get delivered, so like it doesn't matter how. I'm just gonna like a hit and run, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like email or texting. It's like a cop out.
It is,
like,
right? Yeah.
You know, like you have to have the human element. Right. Otherwise, like there's gonna be a lot of, you know. Yeah, it's just not like, I don't know, conducive to the idea.
Okay, good. All right, I like this idea. All right, I stand by this one. It's always a an unknown when I look back at an old idea I wrote. Like some of them hold up and some of them really don't hold up. but it always feels good when when it holds up. All right, I'm gonna go I want to do Rabbeinu Yonah, but I made the same mistake I always make, which is I just copied and pasted the one from Al Torah and didn't bother to check the good version. So let me just go get the good version. And I'll mention again, Al Torah has lots of good versions that are better than other versions, but you need to know which version you're using. And this one is not good, but there's no other one that is this good online. So that I'm aware of, at least. Okay, 12, 18. Okay, so this might be different than what you read on the screen. I don't know. Yesh meitzik umazik b'mifta sefasav kemad karoskara. What does meitzik mean? Lahatzik. Anyone know what lahatzik means? Lahatzik.
It's not like to laugh or to.
No, that's litzachik.
Oh.
This just doesn't take me to Google Translate. Google. I don't even know if Google Translate is going to have Google Translate. Okay, I was looking up German. Hebrew. Lihatzik. To poke. All right, there you go. All right, so so he says there's someone who pokes and causes harm with the pronouncement of his lips, like the stabbings of a sword. B'divrei ga'ava vavuz nogaim ad hanefesh umalbinim panim hapanim. So with words of haughtiness and scorn that reaches a person's soul and embarrasses them. Oh, she saper lashon hara al chavero v'nismechu hashomim al devarav. Or they speak lashon hara about somebody, and the listeners rely on his words. Kinyan sha'amru zal laz mishpacha ein lo kapara olamis. Wow, that's a strong statement. If you spread slander about someone's family, there is no atonement. There's no kapara forever. So it's telling us through this onesh lashon hara kamase hanazakim ukamat ruchuros cherev, that the punishment of lashon hara is like the act of or the consequences of lashon hara is like the act of causing bodily physical harm and the stabbings of a sword. Okay, fine. So just right away, he's not saying yish bota is like a specific case. He's saying all the ranges of harm that you can cause by your speech. Okay, lashon chachamim marpe ha-chachamim yirapu nezek lashon hara. The chachamim heal the harm of lashon hara. Ki yatzivu haomer v'yigaru v'yivatlus devarav. Okay, they will I guess challenge the speaker and rebuke him and refute his words. V'yodiu onesh hamakabel lashon hara, and they will inform him of the punishment of someone who accepts lashon hara. There's a lot of examples in Chazal about the punishment of someone who accepts lashon hara, and that's it. Wow. Okay, so that's not very specific. Is there anything we get from that? Let's think about it for a little while. So he's saying it is about all types of lashon hara and the harm that causes from that. The chiddush is that lashon hara can be as harmful as being stabbed, as stabbing somebody. And the chachamim, it's funny, his explanation of the healing is not so intuitive, that it's not healing it. He's saying you have to confront the lashon hara speaker. He's not addressing the victim, because I think we were thinking of emotional harm, right? He's trying to he's talking about the interaction with the speaker.
Meaning the person who's being slandered is approaching the slanderer?
No, I think that is possible. I think he's saying chachamim in general will talk to someone who speaks lashon hara. I don't think it's the person who was slandered. Yeah, Tamar?
I'm just noticing that it says vayivatlu.
Yeah.
Estevar, which is I don't know why this is counteracting it, but apparently it is. It doesn't seem like it's going to fix the problem, but it sounds like Rabbeinu Yonah is saying that it's going to counteract the actual lashon hara.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it does sound like he is talking about restoring the reputation that was damaged by this person. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of this Rabbeinu Yonah. It's also difficult because it's so broad in terms of the examples. I mean, he gives all these examples of different types of harmful speech.
So how is he getting lashon hara from the poking.
I think he's learning that like when you stab someone, it causes a lot of harm, and like the chiddush of the pasuk is to say, don't think that I'm just talking. Like no, you're actually like causing real harm. As if would you go and stab somebody? No. So then why are you speaking about them and like spreading rumors? Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that. Yeah, Tamar?
Maybe they're like undermining people believing him. Like, because they're telling people about the onish. I don't know really why it works that way, but
yeah, I mean, you are right that he says the onish of someone who accepts lashon hara. I mean, he's doing both. He's rebuking the speaker and he's negating the his words and making known the punishment of lashon hara. Well, here's one thing that we got from Ben Yonah that we didn't get from other people. Like this is a true opposite. Like what we were talking about in the opposites. We also said true opposites. I don't want to negate what we said. Like this is talking about there are people who are out there as a force of harm in the world through their speech, and then there are people who are out there who are like trying to stop people from speaking like that and trying to like undo the damage that they caused. But I don't know what to make of this. Okay, because of time, let's go and read the Meiri. V'amar yesh bote rotzalamar medaber or midavar shu kamakros charev. Inyan moti shem v'holich moti shemra v'holich rachil hu min hagarasha. So he's saying a speaker who is like a sword piercer with the swords, like someone who slanders or gossips, and this is the minhag of the Rasha. Yidaber af ami shesover lamod ito b'bris. So this is different. He speaks even about somebody who believes that he's someone who he can trust. Uvehefech v'lashon chachamim v'humar b'davar tov. The lashon chachamim will heal with a good statement. Af al hamaruchakim mehem, even people who are distant from them. The yirapu ubezeh mitzad ha'ahava, and they will heal them because of ahava. Okay, so that's setting up a nice dichotomy here. So he's saying that so he's using it like stabbing in the back, right? He's saying that the person in the first half of the pasuk is someone who speaks in a harmful way, even to people who have his trust, and then the person in the second half of the pasuk is healing with his speech, even people who he's not close to. So the question is, what do we get from that emphasis? That's all he gives us.
I mean, that is in line with the chacham because, if he's healing people, even who he isn't close with, ultimately it will benefit him.
Right. Yeah, Rifki?
The only thing I'm like grappling with in his explanation is, I guess like it seems like very paranoid, like the first half. Like he trusts, like I guess like I'm asking as an audience, how are you supposed, because it doesn't say in Russia, it doesn't say anything.
It does.
Oh, he does say in Russia?
Yeah, minhag Russia, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fine. I'm saying
Yeah. I was gonna say, how do you avoid it? Is don't be friends with the Rishaim.
Well, the pasuk doesn't say that. Like I guess I'm just
yeah, right. No, you're right. You're right. I think that's yeah, I mean what he's saying is who is the only person who speaks in backstabby ways is a Russia,
I guess I'm wondering if it's true. But yeah, I mean, I trust him.
Let's hope he doesn't stab us in the back. Yeah, Isaiah?
It's funny to me, like the lashon chachamim in his interpretation sounds like it should be lashon tzaddikim.
Yeah, when Ariel was talking, I was thinking that. Yeah, like it's a very far off thing. I don't know if a chacham would be concerned. If our definition of a chacham would be concerned with like these far off people. Unless it's saying that the chacham will do this even if the person is not close. In other words, the tzaddik is going to actually go out of his way to like, in the Rebbeinu Yonah sense, is to like, to make sure that no one gets spoken badly about. But let's say a chacham, like in other words, a chacham will there are people who only do act in line with justice if they identify with the victim. If they're a friend or if they feel sorry for them. And maybe this is talking about a situation where the chacham does see a benefit in doing this, and a non-chacham would see a benefit or whatever, but not step in because like I don't really know this person. But the chacham is going and it's saying that his lack of identification doesn't stop him. it still feels forced though. Yeah, Ariel.
I'm sorry, can you explain what's forced?
What's forced is that why is the Chacham involving himself with someone who is distant from him? That sounds like a tzaddik thing, you know? And so I was saying that maybe this is a situation where the Chacham, the person is in a situation where there might be a benefit or a consequence from helping or not helping this person. But an ordinary person would say like, oh, I don't know this guy, I'm not going to help him. And the Chacham would be like, no, I'm not going to let my lack of identification prevent me from like helping this person.
Oh, so the Meiri does say that the Chachamim, help even with people who he's not in contact with.
Yeah, even people who are distant from him. Yeah. Isaiah?
Another interesting thing is that he calls it mitzad ava, ha'ava, the way that.
Oh, that is also true. Yeah, that sounds like a tzaddik. Yeah.
Like not just that, it sounds like what was I gonna say? Yeah, it sounds like a tzaddik.
So here's sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like that doesn't seem like a practical benefit to that necessarily.
Right. You want to hear another bad answer? That it doesn't say that it's a chacham. It says it's a lashon chachamim, which means that maybe it is talking about tzaddikim, but the here you need chachma in order to actually speak this way. So it's emphasizing the quality that allows the tzaddik. The Meiri is saying the first half is a Russia, so it stands to reason that the second half is a tzaddik. But the quality he needs is not a tzaddik quality. In order to be able to do this, he needs the lashon chachamim to do this.
Why is that a bad answer?
It's not anymore. I convinced myself it's good. I was saying it's bad because I was forcing it, but I think it's the only thing that's bad about it is the thing that bothered Rivki, which is that the pasuk doesn't say it's about a Russia, But if you accept that, even though the pasuk doesn't say it's about a Russia, and it is, so you can accept that the second half is about a tzaddik, even though it isn't really either. Yeah. Okay. Ella?
So according to this, would the Russia care that he's stabbing people in the back, or why should he care?
Right. So the Russia should care because the Russia is so blinded by his ascent to power and thinks that, well, if I'm stabbing the people in the back, like I'm on my way up and I'm going to leave them in the dust. But people will see that he stabbed people in the back. So people will not trust him, which is not, it's in his best interest for people to trust him, because that's how he's going to get more power, is by using other people. And also people are going to stab him in the back. They're going to see, that's one of the funny things about the Russia's success, is that like it emboldens people who are on the brink of being Rishaim to take that next step to become a Russia. So like this guy stabbed so many people in the back on the way up. If I want to climb up and go past him, I'm going to stab people in the back also. I'm going to stab him in the back, So it's like he's setting himself up for like a real fall, like you want the type of if you're going to be a Russia kingpin, you should be a Russia kingpin that everyone trusts, like even if you're doing corrupt stuff for society, like that, then you'll really have loyalty, because loyalty is really the best asset that these guys have. And they can't, ultimately they're not gonna be able to have it, because nothing is gonna is gonna, like, their ego and their greatness is gonna trump everything. So it's like built-in failure. Okay, let's just do derech nistar really quickly, because he doesn't give us that much to work with. So remember, he's been talking in the derech nistar here about if you have doubt or questions about the fundamentals of Torah. So he says, derech nistar gamkein yish boteh al hapinos shiz karno. There are people who stab the fundamentals of Torah. Okay, weird analogy. Kimakaros charav mitoch muvuchasam v'harisasam, out of their confusion and their breaking, they're like, here haris means kafira. I think we had that last time as be a Horus. Yeah. L'oshen chachamim yirapu hamake betuv sichlam. The chachamim will heal the wound with their good intelligence. So I'll give an example of this, I think. Okay, there's a Zeno's paradox about how I've never seen this inside. I don't even know if we have the text, but like how, if you have point A and point B, Zeno proved that well, in order to get from point A to point B, you need to at least make it halfway. Okay, So that's call that point C. But in order to get from A to C, you need to at least make it halfway so that you get to D. But in order to get there, so what's going to happen is you can never actually move. So he like disproved motion, you know? So I think it was about that concept that Aristotle said, like, you'd have to be an idiot to deny motion, you know? Like, just because Zeno can logically like make a word game to like show that like he's that he's disproving motion, like you have to be an idiot to like actually deny motion. You know, there's the joke. I'll tell the joke because it's one of the only jokes I tell. I think it's funny. Is that Zeno was sitting with his talmidim and like telling them philosophy, and then suddenly like this like lion like leapt out of the forest and started like running at the group of talmidim. So Zeno like ran, you know, and was like running away. And a student said, "But Rebbe, like, you know, you hold that there's no such thing as motion, so that lion is not really moving." And he's like, "Yeah, neither am I." You know. So Aristotle, thank you, Ariel. So Aristotle said that, you know, no one actually believes Zeno, but once he like raises this question, there are people who get so caught up in the error that you now need to go and prove motion. You know, so same thing with Descartes. Like, this is one of the like Adler's critiques of Descartes. Like, Descartes has his thought experiment where he like says, well, what if I deny everything except for something that's impossible to deny, you know? And then he starts like proving everything from I think therefore I am, you know, so that proves my own existence. And then he goes from there to God, you know, and he like proves this whole thing. Well, so that's very nice thought experiment. But because Descartes did that, then it like opened up these doors for people questioning whether reality exists. And then you have people trying to like disprove Descartes, and then people like try and disprove them. And you get this whole thing of like this whole edifice of like philosophical problems that like all started with someone doing like a thought experiment that just denied one of the basic categories of reality. Like, yeah, you can tell yourself that reality doesn't exist, but are you still going to look both ways before we cross the street? Like, yeah, you know, so like this is a trend in Kfira that there are people who will just like, they'll have a question, and it might even be a good question, you know, but they'll just stab the fundamental and then just, you know, not bother to like not do what Meiri told us to do in the last pasuk, which is to work on it step by step and like slowly and deliberately and not like make a big panic. They'll just say like, well, I have this question and therefore I'm just going to deny this whole fundamental principle, you know? And he's saying that sometimes Chachamim will have to come along and heal that. And it's a healing. It's a difference between like, there's a difference between teaching truth and healing like a destroyed ikar, like a destroyed fundamental, you know? And it's a different kind of like teaching and a different kind of learning, you know, I wasn't really doing this in entirely in my episode of Judaism Demystified, but like there are people who like are, this is not even a yesod, but I'm just going to give you an example. There are people who like to the Rishonim, it was obvious that God can't do everything, you know, like it was obvious idea, like you like, you know, they said like you'd have to be like an idiot, like Meiri literally says you have to be a pessy to think that God could do everything, you know. But there are people who now are so caught up in this like childish idea of omnipotence that God could do everything that like now we have to go in and give shirim about how like that's not a sensible idea and how like all, you know, how the Masorah doesn't support that, you know. So it's like a remedial type of teaching. Yeah. Okay, so let's summarize what we have here for tonight and then call it end of the season. So we have Isaiah's idea with David's addition, which is still has a lot of potential. Okay, like I don't want to give up on this idea, so we can talk about it in the Mishlei after party chat if we have ideas here. Which is that people don't relate to speech as a phenomenon of chachma. So when they harm somebody, it would be like if they just stab somebody and there's like, oh, nothing I could do. Like this person got offended, this person got hurt, like that's it. Maybe we can still go into like what the psychology of that is, but the point is that they don't view it as though there's a way to repair it. But a chacham sees that just all I'm doing when I say words is words are a vehicle conveying meaning, and I like conveyed meaning that the person either misunderstood or it hit them wrong, and I didn't think about it. So like it created hurt. And I can use that exact same process to create healing, you know? And we mapped out a way to do that, which is they got hurt because for two reasons. One is is thinking that this was your real intention and thinking that you said this even though you care about their feelings, which shows that you don't really care about their feelings and the fact that they got hurt. So you have to like repair on both things. You have to show that this is not really what you thought or meant, and that you have to show that you care about their feelings, you know? Yeah, so it's showing you that there is still you should use speech as a manner of chachma. And this is not necessarily talking about chachamim. It's just you have to use speech of chachamim. You don't have to be a chacham to do this. Okay, and then there's Rivki's step one of an approach, which is someone who's intentionally wielding speech like a sword and stabbing somebody. And the second half is someone who like can do the opposite, but we didn't really get that far for that. Then there's my idea based on the Matsudat ציון, which is it's a specific case about people who make official pronouncements in insensitive ways and relinquish responsibility because it's just delivering the news. And the Chachamim, even if they have to deliver news, will take all the care that they can to put themselves in the other person's shoes and use their speech to like be as sensitive as possible. Rabbeinu Yonah says that this is about no, this is not the Rishayim one. Rabbeinu Yonah says that this is about using all sorts of speech to harm people in different ways through lashon hara or whatever, and the Chachamim will prevent that and heal it, but we didn't really know what he was getting at. And the Meiri says, sounds like he's talking about Rishayim and Tzadikim, that Rishayim will betray people even who have their trust, and Chachamim will use their lashon chacham. Tzadikim will use their lashon chachamim to bring about healing even to people who aren't in their immediate circle and they don't feel like close with, but they'll bring them in because of like promoting ahava. You know, that's like an Aaron Cohen thing. You know, Aaron doesn't really know these guys, but he'll promote it for the sake of Klal Yisrael. And then the Meiri derech nistar is that sometimes people will stab in one of what he calls the Pinos HaTorah, the foundations, out of their confusion instead of like going through and like researching it carefully. And as a result of the damage that they do, then Chachamim will have to come in and do damage control, and it's more damage control. It's actually refuah, it's healing, even though like they wouldn't have needed to do that if the person worked through the problem in a responsible, slow way. Okay, a good year of Mishlei learning, everybody. Again, this is not going to be hopefully the end, because we'll hopefully have Shiur during the summer, but I don't know who's going to make it for the summer. But it was a pleasure as always. I think we all, I think the difference was just doing a quick reflection on, I know Ariel, you have to go, but I want to give a quick reflection on the end of the year. But the end, okay, I don't remember the end of the second year. End of the first year, I felt like everyone finally gets Mishlei, like we got it. End of the second year is when I saw huge improvement in people's individual ability to ask questions and come up with ideas. I think the thing I'm seeing this year is this feels like a very well-oiled machine. Like this particular Mishlei Chavura, I feel like the level of working together that started happening last year, but I feel like it's a more extremely efficient way to learn Mishlei this year. The fact that we have such a rapport together. So that's my thing that is most prominent about this year compared to the last 2 years.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. Yeah,
good. Okay. Anyone else have any end of the year reflections?
I like how sometimes there's a whole profusion of ideas.
Yeah.
There's 7 people with approaches. I just think
really, it is very amazing. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to say that I going through the sugyas of Hakar Satov the past 8 weeks.
Oh, you're bringing Roos back into it, right?
Yeah, but there are many other areas. But I gotta say, learning Mishlei the past 3 years really tremendously improved my life. So I want to give you a Hakar Satov for that.
All right, great. I'm going to give it right back to Rabbi Moskowitz. So yep. He started it, but I'm glad that you guys, show up, on a regular basis to learn, because I certainly wouldn't have been able to do these shiurim without this group. And I'm glad that we all love Mishlei.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime I can push you, let me know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Okay, everyone. Thanks for coming. And until next time, whenever that may be.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Right,
you.
yeah, my pleasure. Have a good night.